Good afternoon, everyone. どれほどこっそり息を潜めていても、そのうち誰かが必ずあなたを見つけ出します。This quote comes from Haruki Murakami's novel, 1984, and it can be translated as, no matter how quietly you hide yourself away, eventually someone will find you. When I first read this quote, I thought it was simply a beautiful line from a novel. However, as I reflect on my own life, I realized that it describes something very important about human beings. No matter how independent we try to be, no matter how much we hide our emotions, no matter how quietly we carry our struggles, we all hope that somebody will notice us, understand us, and care about us. Today, I would like to talk about a group of people that are called moss-like people, why they exist, and how the environment we create around us can help them grow beyond being just moss. I'll also explain how my experiences at Scuba International School, or TIS, helped shape my understanding of this topic, and why I believe schools play an important role in forming meaningful human connections. Before I begin, let me briefly introduce myself. My name is Ryusuke Chudleigh. I was born in London in 2005 to a Japanese mother and a British father. In 2010, I moved to Japan and attended Tsubasa Elementary School in Saitama Prefecture. In 2015, I joined Scuba International School, where I studied until graduation before entering Chuo University in 2025. I'm currently 20 years old. Having grown up in both Japanese and international educational environments, I've been fortunate enough to experience different ways of learning, different cultures, and different approaches to building relationships. Looking back on those experiences is what led me to choose this topic today. To begin, I would like to define what I mean by moss-like people. Of course, I'm not talking about actual moss. The topic uses moss as a metaphor. When most people think of moss, they imagine something quiet, hidden, and small. Moss does not demand attention. It grows in the background. Many people walk past it every day without noticing it. I believe some people live in a similar way. These are people who rarely talk about their own struggles, emotions, or problems. They listen carefully when others need support, but they rarely ask for help themselves. They assume that nobody will care about their concerns, or they worry that sharing their feelings will burden other people. Ironically, these people are often the kindest people you ever meet. They're caring, they're empathetic, they are willing to sacrifice their own comfort for someone else's happiness. They remember your problems, they support your dreams, they listen when you need someone to talk to. Yet when they are struggling themselves, they remain silent. I know people like this. In fact, I believe many of us have been this person at some point in our lives, or have met people as such. Some people may wonder whether this is actually a problem. After all, if someone's comfortable living this way, why should we be concerned? My answer is simple. The problem is not that they are quiet. The problem is that they often underestimate their own value. They believe they deserve less care than they give to others. They accept loneliness as normal. They convince themselves that their feelings are less important than everyone else's. I strongly disagree with that way of thinking. I believe every person deserves the same amount of love, care, and support that they are willing to give to others. Being content does not necessarily mean someone is living the best life they can live. A person may survive without deep human connections, but that doesn't mean they are thriving. Humans are social creatures by nature. For thousands of years, our survival depended on communication, cooperation, trust, and belonging. We evolved in communities. We learned through communities. We grew through communities. Yet, despite living in the most technologically connected period in human history, many people feel more isolated than ever before. Today, we can instantly communicate with someone on the other side of the planet. We can share photos, messages, and videos with hundreds of people. We can gain followers and likes with the press of a button. However, having access to more people does not necessarily mean we having deeper relationships. Technology has connected millions of people globally, but in many cases, it has separated us from those closest to us. Many young people today experience pressure from social media, online trends, and fear of missing out, commonly known as FOMO. People compare themselves constantly. They compare their appearances, their achievements, their friendships, their lifestyles, and as a result, people become afraid of being vulnerable. They become afraid of showing weakness. They become afraid of saying something that others may disagree with. Many people begin to place themselves into specific communities and rarely leave them. Instead of learning from different perspectives, they remain within spaces where everyone thinks in a similar way. This can unintentionally create closed-mindedness and make genuine connection more difficult. If this is the direction society is moving towards, then an important question emerges. Where can young people learn how to form meaningful relationships? Where can they learn trust? Where can they learn open-mindedness? And where can they learn how to care for one another? For me, one answer was school. More specifically, Tsukuba International School. TIS is a relatively small international school located in Tsukuba, Japan. When I attended, the entire school consists of roughly 200 to 400 students from pre-kindergarten up to grade 12. There was only one class per grade, with around 10 to 25 students in each class. At first, I did not see this as a strength. To be completely honest, I felt frustrated by how small the school was. I saw the same people every day. There were few opportunities to meet new students. Compared to a larger school, life sometimes felt less exciting. I believe that attending a larger school would have allowed me to make more friends and have more experiences. To some extent, I still think that is true. Perhaps attending a larger school would have helped me become more outgoing and comfortable approaching strangers. However, as I've grown older and reflect on my experiences, I've realized something important. What I once viewed as a weakness was actually one of the greatest strengths of this school. Because TIs was small, I did not simply know my classmates. I truly knew them. I knew their personalities, I knew their strengths, I knew their insecurities. I watched them grow over many years. Likewise, they knew me. Trust is difficult to build when relationships are constantly changing. However, when you spend years and learning and living alongside the same people, trust develops naturally. Over time, classmates become more than classmates. They become a community. Some become family. I spent up to 9 years with many of the same students. Although I did not make hundreds of friends, I formed a small group of friendships that I genuinely believe will last for most of my life. Those friendships taught me something incredibly important. Real friendship is not measured by quantity, it is measured by trust. When you truly trust someone, you can speak honestly. You can discuss your fears, your failures, your doubts, your struggles. You no longer worry constantly about protecting your image. You no longer fear immediate judgment. You can simply be yourself. What impressed me most was that this was not only true for outgoing students. Many of the shy, sensitive, and introverted students around me were also able to express themselves comfortably within trusted friendships. The environment gave them space to grow. In other words, the environment gave moss-like people an opportunity to become more than moss. Another important factor was the relationship between teachers and students. Because classes are relatively small, teachers could provide individual attention to each student. They knew us personally. They cared about our well-being. Many teachers treated students almost like family members. This kind of environment teaches more than academic knowledge. It teaches students how to communicate, how to support one another, and how to navigate social relationships. And perhaps most importantly, it teaches students that asking for help is acceptable. This brings me to another aspect of TIS that I believe was particularly influential, the International Baccalaureate or IB Learner Profile. The IB Learner Profile includes 10 attributes, including being inquirers, knowledgeable, thinkers, communicators, principled, open-minded, caring, risk-taker, balanced, and reflective. Amongst these attributes, two stand out as especially relevant to today's topic: open-mindedness and caring. Let us begin with open-mindedness. An open-minded person is willing to listen to perspectives that differ from their own. They are willing to challenge their assumptions. They do not immediately reject ideas simply because it's unfamiliar. I believe open-mindedness is a sign of strength, not weakness. Many moss-like people struggle to express themselves because they fear judgment. They worry that others will misunderstand them. They worry that others will dismiss their experiences. However, when people around them are genuinely open-minded, that fear begins to disappear. At TIS, students were constantly encouraged to explore different viewpoints. Whether we're discussing literature, history, global issues, or personal interpretations, we are all taught that disagreement was nothing to fear. Having a different perspective did not make someone wrong. It simply made them different. Because of this, students learned how to listen respectfully and communicate openly. The second learner profile I'd like to discuss is caring. Everyone understands that caring for others are important. However, I believe many people underestimate just how truly important it is. Caring is not simply being nice. Caring means making another person feel valued. It means making them feel heard. It means making them feel their existence matters. A caring environment sends a powerful message. It says your feelings matter too. For most like people, hearing that message can completely change their lives. Throughout my own life, I've gone through periods where I believe financial success was one of the most important goals. I thought that stability, income, and career achievement would determine whether someone has lived a successful life. To be clear, I still believe those things are important. Financial stability matters. Career success matters. Responsibility matters. However, I no longer believe they are the most important things. When we look at people who have sacrificed relationships in pursuit for money or status, we often find that a lot of them are deeply lonely. Despite having wealth, they lack connection. Despite having success, they lack belonging. As I've matured, I've come to believe that the ability to love and care for others, and to be loved and cared for in return, is one of the most important aspects of life. Because when someone is genuinely loved and cared for, they are no longer alone. They are no longer invisible. They are no longer forced to carry every burden themselves. And that is exactly why this topic matters. The goal is not to change who Moss-like people are. Their kindness is valuable. Their empathy is valuable. Their compassion is valuable. The goal is to create an environment where they no longer feel invisible. Environments where they feel safe enough to speak, safe enough to trust, safe enough to ask for help. Looking back on my life, I realized something important. The reason I am not completely a Moss-like person today is largely because of the environment I grew up in. The friendships I formed, the teachers who supported me, the values I learned, the communities I experienced. All these things gave me opportunity to express myself and connect with others. That is why I chose to talk about TIS today. Not because I believe every school should be identical to TIS. Not because small schools are automatically better than larger schools, but because I believe there's something worth learning from environments that prioritize human connection, trust, open-mindedness, and care. As I conclude, I would like to return to the image of moss. Moss survives because it grows in the right environment. It needs support. It needs nourishment. It needs conditions that allow it to thrive. Human beings are not so different. People grow when they're surrounded by trust. They grow when they're surrounded by understanding. They grow when they're surrounded by people who genuinely care about them. And perhaps the greatest gift we can offer another person is not advice, money, or success. Perhaps it's simply creating an environment where they feel safe enough to be themselves. So I'd like to finish by returning to Murakami's words. No matter how quietly you hide yourself away, eventually someone will find you. My hope is that all of us can become the kind of people who do the finding. Thank you very much.